Okay, I did hit the start streaming button. Are we live? Dun-dun. Okay, looks like we are live. Dun, dun, dun. Commercials. Dun. Sorry about that. Dun, 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun. Dun 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 dun. Green dot. The manually unpin. And I will hide. I'm just looking at my own stream setup and how it looks. I think it's actually quite good. There we go. In hindsight, I probably should have done a couple of self-care things before going live, but oh well. Okay. Everything should be good, so... Oh, right. I need to advertise. Let people know I'm actually live. And I'm sorry for the no music. There was no music or blaringly loud music.
Ha! 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 Ha!
Oh. Hi, Neo! Welcome on in. Peek, yep. You there. Hi, Bree. Hi, Neo.
Hi, Neo.
Yeah. I'm actually. Hi, Neo. Hi, Neo says hi, Kels.
Hi.
I'm just letting all of the peeps know that I'm actually live. Because, because, you know, today is not the normal stream day. Or stream time. And I wasn't really planning on streaming. I just kind of did it as an impromptu thing. Because, well, I updated my stream setup slightly. It's not anything groundbreaking or revolutionary, but
And I came home early.
I technically
I had a short shift at work.
I technically did update my stream setup. And beyond having updated my stream setup, I just wanted to game more, so. There. There. Here. Here. I think that. Oh, wait, there's one.
Did you promo in my server?
That's the one more place.
Oh.
Your server is the bottom of the list for. What's normal anyway? Not me. That's what's normal. Anyway, like, hi. Oh, whoops. I've been on the live stream webcam ever since saying hi to Neo. Oh well. So to show off the changes a little bit, it's basically the welcome to the range panel up there-ish. I've reorganized it where all of the socials are now on one row at the bottom. I basically swapped the position of stream title and current time and slightly adjusted the position of the current scene, which, you know, it updates between the...
What?
Oh, just the... of the driver.
Oh.
So, you might notice is the same thing of, like, I didn't... Driver... I barely know her. That's fair.
You're an influencer.
Yeah, that's a her I do know. It's Sunday. Ooh, Queen of Sauce. Stir fry.
What?
Oh, Queen of Sauce learned how to, and from it I learned how to cook stir fry.
Not gonna lie, stir fry kind of sounds good.
It does. Da, 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 da. Also, Neo, since you're here, I'm going to actually show off my animal names. I've got Cat, who is a cat. Ooh, it's showing that I need to pet Cat. Where is Cat?
Oh, yeah, it lags when she runs, so don't worry.
Yeah. Okay, I guess that's just a glitch where it's showing her as not being pet when she is. I've got a horse named Equestrian. I've got a hen named Hen Nana. Then
Another one named Hentai.
yeah, then there's Hen Tai. So Hen Nana and Hen Tai are a pair. Okay, so those voids are automatically generated names. I didn't make any of them. I've got a cow named Dairy Goodwin. Then a cow named Moo Moo. These dinosaurs are automatically named. Then there's Dr. Quack, who studied at Duck U. I've got a camel named Casey. And then there's a camel who's Humphrey. So this name was almost natural. I added the LA. So I've got a goose named Labubu, and then the other goose is Untitled GG. Then I've got a goat Ed with sauce. Then there's Billy, who's a goat. I think the ostriches, those are automatically generated. Yeah, all of those ostrich names are automatic. I didn't name any of them. I've got a pig named Ham Taru and a pig named Truffle Maker. None of the rabbits there are named. I've got a bunny named Chloe, which is a system thing, same as Cat, and the other rabbit is named Harry. Okay, that was good. Then we've got a sheep named Wake Up, and another sheep called Vote Me. So let's just go here. I'm not going to bother doing any of the crops. Some might be harvestable right now. I really don't care. I wasted so much time last stream going through all of the crops. We gotta redo this cutscene to get the pan. Huh? Hi, Lavender. It's odd. I'm not sure what caused this boulder to disappear. This stream is flowing deep from deep within the mountain. Hey, when the Mount Tussie.
Hey! Not the Mount Tussie.
Hey, do you see that glistening in the water? They're making this way too easy. Yes, that's quality ore. The flow of water must be carrying it out of the mountain. You know what this means, right?
Excuse me.
You are excused. It means we can start panning for ore.
But
Here,
don't we need don't we need Aura's consent to pan for them though?
I love you. Hi, Ark. Welcome on
Hi,
in.
Ark.
I have like a 50 stream watch streak of watching Ark's streams every single morning.
Wait, have you shouted out Neil or Ark yet?
I just shouted out Ark. Hope you guys are doing well. To do your girls as well. We're doing pretty good. So no
I
excuse
got done
because
with
you
work
don't-
an hour ago.
Mm-hmm. So we're getting a copper pan.
I work 2 more days this week. I work tomorrow and
These
Thursday.
pans.
Oh, you'll have to let me know if this is too loud.
I will.
You didn't think I'd come out here to play games, did you?
I was concerned that you might not.
Someone already has Russell. Give me.
But yeah, like the automatic shout out does say a lot. Like Ark is a Filipino VTuber, streams most days except for I think it's American Sunday,
Excuse me. Yeah.
maybe, and occasionally has American Saturday off as well.
Oop. You're
Yes, I can hear.
you're in trouble. Who
Ah,
work? Does it work?
yeah. The lead team collectively forgot that there was a scheduled meeting today.
Oops. So you gotta do it tomorrow, I think.
Mm-hmm. No, next week. But
Oh, okay.
ooh, darn, that's a repeat. I could go down into the little pocket there, but I'm honestly kind of just mostly interested in upgrading my stuff. Like, I'm not going to even search the garbage cans, really.
Good, because that's my home.
Love! No! Bad! Bad! Neo, can you bonk Kels for me?
Neo, if you do, I'll cry.
You'll be happy to know Neo said no.
Okay.
Plink plonk. Next time, however, yep.
What do you mean?
Well, we mean that you are not trash or garbage.
Ah!
We.
I just need the small shield potions.
How fast do you want to go? Yes. Exactly. No spring onions. SMH, shaking my head. She's right, you know, you are amazing, Kels, not trash.
I will take that much.
You can't argue with us, Kels.
I mean, I can. It just wouldn't really do me any good.
You just said you can because you're a brat, but we are right.
Yeah. If I die here, who do I blame? Mon or Enzetsu?
Seems fair. His family replays, Choda learn.
No! I'm getting double teamed? I'm getting double teamed?
First.
Hello? No?
There. Calendar. Lewis's birthday. Bea! Sunfish. Calzone. What Bea wants, Bea gets.
What? I just dyed my hair red for you. I was almost late to work for you. And this is the things I get.
Well, if you really wanted to, you could come join me in this game.
No, because you'll still pay attention to Leia.
It's Bea.
Uh-huh. Tomato, tomato.
Sunfish for Bea. Okay, everything's open. And if you're wondering, the reason Penny is saying that is because last stream I made her one of my girlfriends.
You floozy! Don't even have a rabbit's foot.
It'll be fine.
Uh-huh.
Don't you have work to do? Don't you have a shop to run?
Are you talking to Doja on that?
No, but I might as well be. Clint.
Oh, yeah, fuck Clint.
All my homies hate Clint. There we go.
What do I have now?
Bea! Sunfish. Sun. Bea. How is Claire higher than Bea? Oh well.
Wow, you're playing favorites. And not even your own wife in the game.
Well, I would play favorites with you if you were in the game.
I wasn't talking about me, you nerd. I was talking about Leia.
I don't like talking to Morris, but at the same time...
I thought you were going to say I don't like talking to Leia. It's like, dang. How fast attitude changes.
Da-da-da-da-da. The Legend of Long. That being Legend of Zelda. Da-da-da-da-da.
I don't have weapons that track people, though. That's the thing.
Da-da-da-da.
What?
Catch that salmon. Salmon
Don't
dinner.
die.
Got pet Dusty. Fork. You give Dusty mini pets. there. Seashells, seashells. Where's George? I guess he's at the doctor. Hi Claire. Hey Sophia. Lily and I did our makeup together today. You should join us sometime. Think it went well? Of course it went well. One of your favorite things you'll always treasure it. How about you treasure this? Da, 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 da. Or serious feel the same way. Hey you. Behind the counter blues. Doesn't stop you from going out anyway. Let's talk to Abigail. For once, that's the appropriate reaction. Busy in the kitchen. I actually was. Da, 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 da. Right, I need to actually go down there, but first.
Come on.
I mean, you technically do get patients from the neighboring towns in this mod. Hi, Sam. Hi there, miss. Hi, Vincent. Where's your bone? Oh well. Squirrel love. Haley not a fan. I don't think the game actually allows you to cook without a recipe.
Yeah, this is a new thing now, by the way. Honey.
What? Ooh. They see me rolling. Leave you alone. Gladly would, Shane, but you know. Talk to Jess. Oh, poor Jess. Oh, we've got an ad break. So ads in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay. I'm actually going to use that ad break to go get to do a little bit of stuff there. So be right back. I know that not everyone is in ads. In fact, probably nobody is, but you know. It's called an ad break because some people get ads while I go on break.
What am I gonna do?
Spend the rest of your life with me?
Oh yeah, isn't that why we have here?
It is. Oh, I missed Alakazam. Oh well. Anyway, I'm back.
Hi back.
You know, I knew you were going to
You
say.
didn't know. You didn't know.
Yes, I did. I was. The moment I said it, I was like bracing for it in 3, 2. I did a mental sigh. Anyway, I sincerely doubt there's going to be a cutscene, so I'm just gonna go in and talk to the wizard. Doing well today, glad to hear it. Okay, welcome back from the ads, everyone.
Well, I am barely gonna make it. There you go.
Final tab. Da, 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 da. Coming this far, improving the process skills, purple secrets. Slow mining. Heavy furnace. Statue of dwarfing. Fishing. Iridium rod. Have you tried palette yet? No, but I should. Mr. Tree. And orange.
Who's asking about talent?
art MMORPG. Kels can join as well. Yeah, we know. Like, we know what Palia is.
I started it. I don't know.
It's not something that we've gotten into.
Yeah.
Also, right now I would have legitimate habits, so... Okay, these are the storehouses. Chinese.
I'm trying to think. Did I think the bus driver last game? I didn't. That's why I lost.
And hey, now look at it. I've got a rabbit's foot now.
Oh, now you can continue flirting with everyone.
I can indeed.
Without them holding a town
Dr. Robin.
Ooh. Yeah, we may have to get that extended, honey. My game keeps lagging. Either that or it's that everybody is like trying to get all the gorilla stuff. So
I think it's the game. Like the videos have been loading just fine. Okay, I'll talk to Linus in a moment.
Well, if I have to, I can move
Actually,
the router.
no. I don't think it's the router though. Does Sebastian have a poster of Abigail? That better not be, honestly. Give me one sec. Stay put. Finish what I was working on. Freelance work. Well, I relate to Sebastian on this. At the same time, it is pretty much the only thing that I relate to Sebastian on.
What do you relate to Sebastian with?
That he has a social battery that gets discharged and that he works online. He does get some points for not wanting to be part of the capitalistic hellscape, but you know. Big change. The fact that Linus calls a glimmering boulder an old friend is pretty cute, honestly. It's nerdy as hell.
Someone else is cute?
You. What's that? Stick. Hi, Marlon. Swords.
For fuck's sake.
Valid.
Headshot.
Ooh. Shit. It auto-selected to that, and that counts as a gift, so I'm going to... Also, that's another guess, because it gave me a gift during
I'm a
time.
bad influencer, really. My wife has like a sailor.
I don't know how badly. You were already at 4 hearts. That gift had to have hurt badly. There we go. I'm pretty miffed at that. At going into... Okay, who's left?
I'm out of here.
Hi, Derive! Oh, welcome on in! Rolling at your stream at the speed of set. And well, thank you for dropping your peeps off. And and thinking of me, and
Let's see.
and it's good to see you. Just making sure. I'm just kind of trying to make sure that if Fluxtree Slippery is still in, good to catch another stream. I'm making sure that if Fluxtree Slippery was in the raid, that the accidental block I did not stay and is gone, because like...
What happened?
Oh, earlier I somehow like in typing hi, that combination with a misclick of some kind ended up blocking. Ended up with me having blocked Floated Debris, and I needed, and I think I undid the block, but at the same time, re-sleeping. Okay, I mean read it. But I was checking to see like if that was still there essentially, because like I don't want it to be. For 20 years. I would displace you as mayor. I deserve it, honestly. So who was it that I need to talk to? Oh, yeah, Elliot.
My soul blazes brighter.
Yep, you've got the daily check-in.
Oh, we owe someone a tarot reading, don't we?
Yeah, but Arcana's not here right now. Oh, we've got one of the sad cutscenes that nothing is made out of because our father is fine.
Refreshing.
Thirst for stretch. Well, that's a two-part command, essentially. Gotta make sure I'm on camera. First part, stretch. There we go. And thirst.
You made the noise again.
Ooh, Palpatone. Exclamation mark. Catch if you're playing a Pokemon community game. You should probably do that too. You didn't stretch once during stream. You were going for a long time. Wasn't that like 5 hours? Just keeping an eye on that brother. Good for him to get some fresh air on a day like this. Our dad used to take us to the beach on sunny days like this. Yep. Go do the self-care. Especially since you raided. You should be doing the self-care. And I have a hot take. This storyline would be so much better if their dad actually did die. But no, he's fine.
Do you know how morbid that sounds, by the way?
Do you know how good of a story it would be if instead of the father coming back, it was a friend of the father?
Okay, let's trade that for this. Whoa.
Is Dad ever going to come home? Yes, in fact he does it on the dot, beginning of year 2. As soon as he possibly can, which is year 2. All the troops getting shot to pieces, because the extended lore of Stardew Valley is actually really, really dark and depressing. Demands more drama. I kind of do. Because, like, for those of you who don't know, like, the extended lore of Stardew Valley, there's fairies and elves which may or may not be extinct, as in they used to exist but no longer do. Something would have caused them to be wiped out. The dwarves and the shadow people are bitter enemies that ward each other into it, who almost being extinct. There's monsters overrunning a bunch of places, so like there's constant danger. The nation that Stardew Valley is a part of is in a losing war. They are losing the war that they are in, very badly so, to hostile forces that are implied to be highly imperialistic, nationalistic people, and I could name a few real-world examples, but I'm not going to. It's implied to be a situation like that, where they are losing the fight against an imperialistic conquering nation. Joda Corp is running wild with rampant capitalism, late-stage capitalism, corrupting the environment, trashing things. All of the trash across everywhere is implied to all be because of Joja Corp. Like, the extended world of Stardew Valley is basically, like, it is a very bad place to live, essentially. The world of Stardew Valley. Even though Stardew Valley is basically a haven from all of that. The game is too real? Yeah! And that's just the base game. I'm playing a modded version, which expands on a lot of that even more. But it's because of all of the all of the lore behind the game that I feel it would have been more impactful for Sam and Vincent's dad to be dead and for it to be a soldier, one of his buddies, returning in year 2 instead of for it to be his father. For it to be their father. Don't believe everything you hear? Yeah, because your father is A-okay aside from some PTSD when he gets back. Yeah. Gatora, I think it is. Gatora? I can't tell if that... Yeah. Gatara. However you say Gatara. Oh, and the traveling cart person? Trader? She is basically a refugee from Gatora. Like, it's an unpleasant enough place that it's causing people to flee the country.
Gee, sounds like another place we're dealing with in real life.
Exactly. And all of this is base games. Base game lore has a rich world to it that is also incredibly dark. And I here playing with you, I feel lonely.
I don't think I live through this.
Oh man, we'll come back. All read the reports. Our soldiers are falling by the thousands. Like I said, they are losing the war against the imperialistic Gatora. Or Katara, whatever. Why am I going to say it's Vincent? You did the right thing, good should have hope. Play and have fun while they still have the chance. Like, genuinely, the implication is they should play and have fun while they still have the chance, because as an adult, it's nothing but misery. Band. I don't think... Did I actually see the cutscene for the band? I'm not sure I did. Oh well. Talk to Elliot. It's a beautiful gift, and you're a beautiful human, Elliot. Or a guy.
Yeah, you're cool and all for a dude.
He is. Were I to ever date a guy by choice rather than for the sake of getting everyone to max, it would be Elliot. I don't think I have.
No.
Let's take these.
Nuts.
Sure. I also need to go to the traveling cart. Oops. By stemming meat pipe, you actually caught the legend, and it was completely on accident too. I never thought I'd see the day. Well, miss, you've done it. You're the best angler this valley's seen in a long time. The funny thing about me catching the legend is, I was aiming for vendor trash. I was aiming to get a sturgeon, I think it was, for the sake of completion.
Yeah, you were talking about a sturgeon.
Traveling cart. bit of everything. Got a little bit of everything, so much so that I don't actually have the room. And I have to go back to my farm to drop stuff off.
Again.
It's been a while since you played Stardew, and watching this is giving you the itch again. Oh yeah, like I've been given the itch to play cozy farming games from all of the Fields of Mystria, and you know, I'm gonna need a new chest. Let's move that, these. Basically, pragmatic stuff.
Fuck. Oh my god, my frames.
That here. Oh. Corn. I can put that in. There. Then gone. I guess those seeds are pretty radish.
I love you.
I love you. Okay, there. Oh, right. I was gonna empty this of everything. Pragmatic. Calendar. Catalog. No, that needs to go somewhere else. Sure. Da, 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 da. These in here. I don't think that clock is accurate. I think that's all of the pragmatic stuff. Oh, we got another ad break. So, another ad break in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, now. Do let me know if there actually are ads though, because I'm assuming there aren't. Like, ooh, Floette! Exclamation mark, perfect ad if you're playing the Pokemon community game. Nope, not yet. Yeah, that's why I figured. Twitch doesn't like giving my viewers ads because if my viewers got ads, that means they would need to pay me ad revenue. They can't give ads without me getting, like, at least fractions of a cent. Twitch paying us, unheard of, yeah. The fact that Twitch hasn't paid very well almost cost us getting this apartment.
Yeah.
Work to the community center.
The thing that got us the apartment was my job.
Mm-hmm. There's no reason for the revenue to split to be 50-50. Why, of course there is a reason. It's called greed.
Well, yes.
Okay, I think if I get it pixel perfect, I might be able to.
What the fuck? Okay, I'm switching to DVD. I can feel myself being out of this game.
I can't get the pixel. I can in theory, but I can't get it in practice. Okay. Victoria, she's to the east. Why aren't my crab pots producing yet? They should be.
I love you.
I love you. And I'm not placing all of the crab pots I can, I'm just kind of testing.
What time is
7:45. Ooh, event. Hello, Lavender, visiting Shearwater Bridge, I see. I'm doing some calculations on its structural integrity. This bridge was built 40 years ago, and at the time it was a triumph of engineering. Bridges fascinate me. They're so simple, but can have so much impact on people's lives. I've built models of a few famous ones. Someday I want to build something on this scale. There's a bridge engineer in Grimbleton. His name is Ralph. When he needs help, I assist him with his work to get hands-on experience. The physics and mathematics that go into bridge construction need to be absolutely flawless. Even a tiny mistake in a single calculation could lead to a major catastrophe. I'm returning to my residence. Need to run these calculations on my computer. It's been a pleasure speaking with you, Lavender. It's pleasant speaking to you too, Victor. Excuse me, sir. Have you got any grapes? No, but I got magic rock candy. Their empire looks delighted.
Is that a reference to the duck song? Duck walks up to lemonade stand.
It might be. I don't know.
Run in the sand and stand. Hey, bum bum bum. Got any grapes?
Oh goodness. Hello, Lavender. You quite startled me. I was quite lost in my thoughts. This is absolutely splendid. I adore it. After store emotion brings me a bounty. I found a bottle once. Inside it, secrets. No, I'll never tell. They are mine. Honestly valid.
I'm saying that like 8, 10. Well, you can go longer, but I'm just gonna wrap up 8, 10.
Yeah. And warp throw down cookies. Puppies. You see many refugees here, Lavender? Guess not. We had a constant flow of them in Fort Joseph. It's really sad and things people have gone through to be free. Mm-hmm.
Jane Romero.
But
Someone
don't
isn't
blame me.
ready.
Some days can be a bit rough. It hurts to fail people you love. Don't I know it? Thanks so much. You're very generous.
What was that?
Oh, it hurts to fail the people you love.
Oh, yes. doctor.
So,
I want to know, how did he see me?
I mean, Scream's kind of did.
No, he didn't even, like, he was so far away. That's my thing. It's like he was way far away.
Conversation. Must be talking to Ellie. That's valid.
This is bullshit. Fuck you, dude. This game doesn't count.
So is it still a better game than Fortnite?
Yes.
Not for my taste. Don't stand.
Oh, please. Help me. Help me. Thank you. Forehead kisses, bye.
Okay, Gus, Andy, George, and Jody. And all of those, well, Gus I know would be in his tavern. Funnily enough, I don't remember talking to him, but I guess I did.
Like, he's just camping people. Like crazy. Or like, Jesus. We are not getting anything done in this game.
There's nobody there.
Ow. How? He's so far away. Is there something I'm missing? What perks does he have? Ooh, that one's my fault. No. Fuck, I got caught. Do you see what the fuck I mean? This asshole just chases you. Brother! Go bother somebody else. I genuinely might just take the temporary timeout from behavior because this game is bullshit. Like, this match is done. It gets you to level 3 fucking insanity. No, I would rather die. No, look. Yeah, it's just that.
And George, Jody.
No, I want out of this.
Nope, not here. Oh, hello. Looks like you're fitting in. really does feel that way. The other ladies are very inclusive. I'm happy I asked Caroline to join the aerobics class. Would you like to see a ballet routine I've been working on? It's from one of my favorite movies. Ooh, Windsor! Exclamation mark. Book catch playing with Pokemon Communicate. Mm-hmm.
I'm so tired. Holy shit.
Phew, what a workout. Well, there's a certain workout I can give. Thanks for coming today, everyone.
Honey buns.
Same time next week. Thanks for waiting. Hopefully my form wasn't too far off. Michelle is departing soon. I need to start packing my things. Is there anything you want to do? Let's be bold. Just grab food at the saloon. Rest of my mind, I'm a tad famous from exercising. One moment. Thank you for everything today, Caroline. Oh, it's Sunday. George is in church. Of course, Claire. See you next week. Let's head to the saloon. Hi, Lavender. Hi, Claire. The dance you showed us was really beautiful. Oh, thank you. I'm flattered, Emily. Here's the food menu. Flag me down when you're ready to order. I'll cover your meal. It's the least I can do to pay you back for last time. Although I would tell you. What should I order? Let's go cheap.
Baba?
That's like being a farmer. Bad. I need Bob. Taking the day off. Okay, let's see.
You fucker.
Da. Okay, that's everyone that I can legitimately talk to.
Everything okay, by the way?
Eh.
Ow! What the? What? Who the fuck are you?
Oh, okay. Wait, why aren't those like...
Well, he got a 4 kill. Yep.
I'll have to go to bed now. Have a good rest of the stream. And go rest and and thank you for stopping by and dropping your people off. So, What? I think the rest of the day is just talking to peeps. Or rather, cutscenes for them. Whee. Here's the cutscene that was supposed to play before the beach.
Ooh.
Jam session. Let's hear it play rock music. Da. Beach. I'm basically, at this point, cutscene hunting. It involves a lot of back and forth between various locations.
Ghost face.
And
I know how to reveal ghost face at this point in time.
Here we go, cutscene. Is this Elliot? It is. I wish this cutscene had a way to call Elliot out on calling Gus bartender. Guess he's being hella rude, and Gus shows it. And you can't say anything about it.
I hit the button.
There you go, sir.
Fuck you, no.
And I'm actually going to pull up ye old Stardew Wiki.
How? Oh my fucking god, why do I get stuck?
Enter Robin's house. Okay. There's no events for Robin. Claire will not be listed on the wiki. So Bea. Oh, Bea would be in Bachelorettes. Dun, 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 dun.
Can't do this with Ghostface.
Dun, 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 dun.
Paste.
Dun, dun, dun. Okay, I've got all of Bea's, Linus, dun 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 dun. Spring 7-year one. 8 p.m. Enter town. Oh, I can enter the saloon and leave. Saloon. Oh, it's 8 p.m.
That's not.
Ooh, Paris.
One more, okay. Just for one.
Oh, there's a Claire event. Oh, hello. Smart Pokecat for Paris and chat. Why are at the slide here? I'm still working. On the clock still. Don't overwork yourself. This right time or place to ask, but I want to try making a new dish to challenge myself. Would you like to come over for dinner tomorrow? I'd love to. Want me to bring anything? You don't need to bring anything. I do appreciate the thought. 103 Prairie Road. Catch the 4 p.m. shuttle. Good night.
Goodbye.
Okay. So.
As soon as you open that gate, I went, pew.
4 p.m. Oh. And art event. Go to bus at 4 p.m.
And with that,
And if you're wondering why I'm making so many, it's because I don't want them to accidentally be marked complete.
oh, my legs.
My
legs.
8 p.m. Date that's not raining. Cannot trigger before. Okay, so I guess it might be a day too soon. 8 p.m. Yeah, I think I got that one already. Yep, got that. Robins. Okay, so I've done everything I can with Linus. Penny. Let's go to Penny. (9 a.m. and 2 p.m. Okay, entered and trailer when she's home. When would Penny be home? Adjusting the time like that might make some NPCs glitch out, but also, I guess gold-wise, 100 equals $1, so like 500 gold would be $5, at least I assume. With these being cents, so this would be 6 cents, this would be 30 cents, this would be $1, that'd be 10, 100, etc. Where would Penny be in her trailer? Time. Exactly 9. Nope, she's not here. I think I saw it anyway. I'll need to figure out when she comes home. I think it's a different day though. Okay, so I can't do more penny events. 9 a.m. and 4 p.m. Center Snap Forest. Have not received the letter yet. Okay, so Penny, Sophia, Martin, the wizard, Marnie, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. p.m. Sunny day, 7 p.m. So 7 p.m. Oh, I need Lewis to be at 6 hearts too, and is he? I doubt it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Odd, no cutscene. There we go. Special. Tails new. Aru 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Clinic. Did that. 9 p.m. Okay, we actually get this cutscene. Carpenter, I'm surprised to see you here so late. I am so sorry about that. I think that our apartment complex is kind of close to a firehouse, so we get sirens pretty often. Like, I know we're not close to the police department, and I know we're not close to any place that would have an ambulance.
Yesterday there were
Yeah.
a firehouse bell going off.
Yeah, so like I think we're pretty much right next to
To a firehouse.
Yeah, so anytime there's a big 911 call.
There's going to be police and fire trucks, but we're going to hear the fire trucks more.
Yeah. Like, sky looks amazing right now. Come over here, I want to show you something. Here, take a peek. Take a peek, trade the wave. What do you see? A beautiful planet. It's amazing, isn't it? By the time any of these stars are positioned, you and I will be long gone. I guess that's the trouble with being human, huh? Lavender, never mind. Here, let me show you a binary star system. But what if I prefer a non-binary as the star of my system? That was a pretty good one, right?
Yes.
For those of you who don't know, Kelsey's non-binary, so... And I am a system, so... Waiting for the noise to go away. What a beautiful night. Power showed me something new. Carpenter. I doubt that bumped our friendship up enough. Yeah, not 8 hearts. Okay. Lewis. S'mores, Olivia, Elliot. 5. Let's see what I can do. That's Elliot at 5. Probably nothing, because I think the bar is like his 4 heart. Yeah. Oh, apparently, to our friendship is actually the better friendship option for his 4 hearts, which is silly. Hi, Opal! I'm basically cutscene hunting at the moment.
Hi, Opal.
Clint 4-star. I doubt there's anything for him. But I'll check. Clint. Hey, you just woke? Yeah, it is about that time. Saloon 7 p.m. and 11 p.m. on a Monday, which would be tomorrow. $1 p.m. Well, the way I see it, every Australian friend I know is not a morning person. Go. Clint. There's Jess. Absolutely not. Mm-hmm. Yorio 07. Only at 8. So nothing for Jess. Abigail has 4. I doubt I have anything for her. Mountain. Mountain on a rainy day. Mountain rainy day. 7 p.m. Try not to. You've not been using your CPAP machine lately, so you're even more not a morning person. Speaking of which, I should begin to use my CPAP machine. I actually know exactly where it is, and we're in a new place, and it would help because I have been having hella bad sleep apnea. Like, it's been much, much worse. But that might just be whoops. What was I trying to... Oh, right, I was trying to add one to the cuss command because of the cuss. So there's Abigail, Vincent, I doubt it, but I'll check. I'm pretty sure I've seen everyone's 2-star. Yep, no, nothing for Vincent. Ideen would not have information. Caroline, 3-star. I know for a fact she wouldn't. I'm pretty much not going to bother with anyone below 3 stars in hunting. For cutscenes, you need to use the machines, but you've been too lazy to wash your mask. Honestly, I don't even bother because, like, it's just me using it. And my mask doesn't go over my face. It's just my nose, so... I actually think we're going to play 2 days today. Good sleep? Yes. I don't think I actually sold anything. Oh well. Mouth and nose covering one, you drool everywhere in it. Yeah, that would require being washed more. Stop the time. Ooh, meal. Lavender. Ooh, ramen. rhubarb pie. Everyone's sending me all of their recipes. I don't really read the flavor text when I get a barrage of them like that. If you don't watch it, you can tell with the smell, and you can't sleep with the drool smell. That's valid. Here, nothing there. No help. Pet Dusty. Open at 9 a.m. So let's get to. Here we go. Oh, Penny. Just finish up real quick. Little taste. That was delicious. Penny would not be allowed in the kitchen. Okay. Thanks for being taste tester. Thank you for being you. Melon. I guess Penny would fit for all of that melancholy. The trick with the bad cook is to cook with them. Yeah. You aren't that great, Alex. Stop trying to impress me. You're too much. I assume he's presumably referring to. Hi, Claire. Let's start from the top. You can do a thing? Oh. Ooh. Building your house from the ground up is pretty impressive.
Give me a sign.
Oh! You figured out how to redeem it? Okay, tarot card spread. Okay, so is that the 1 card or the 2 card? I think it's the 3 card. Dun, 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 dun. Okay, that is the 3 card. I need to update that command with the different decks I have. Okay, let me go get the tarot decks. Oh boy. Been a while. executive gullible. I was going to give you the option.
Oh, you're gonna use the gay tarot deck?
And for this, I was going to give you the option of choosing between D&D and Rainbow Moon Tarot, but I'm selecting the Rainbow Moon Tarot because it's the gay deck and especially non-binary deck. And this one tends to give pretty detailed. Let's see. Oh, whoops. Need to remove the cover. There we go. And shuffling. Good choice. Exactly. Was that one card? That was one card. We've got one out of 3, potentially more. Like when this deck gives more, it tends to give 5 plus a clarifier. I call it the tree spread because you found a gay tarot deck for the first time in your travels last night. Hell yeah! Also, a card if you want to redeem. I'm already doing one. I might as well do another. Oh, that was 3 cards coming out. Okay, so this card is the root. We need one more card to start. And just be aware, both of the decks I use do not have reverse meanings, because the reverses are kinda sorta. Oh, I actually technically have 3 tarot decks. Third is in my purse. We do have an ad break coming in, but nobody actually gets ads. And hey, if someone got ads, as long as it's not Opal, then we'd be fine. There's an aromatase in chat. It's taking its sweet time for the last card, 4 cards. You haven't seen a single ad on your channel, so we're good. That's what I figured. Oh. And there it is. Oh boy. This deck doesn't have reversed meanings, but at the same time, the 2 cards that would typically be in the more reversed positions came out reversed. Alright. So, central card in this reading, which has also come out upside down. Page of Crystals, which is at the center of everything for the rest of the reading, essentially. Crystals will be... I think crystals are at the back. Nope, daggers. Oh wait, page. Almost there. Okay. Just to confirm, not in an ad breakable. No ad break? Okay. So, Page of Crystals, which would be at the root of this reading. And it's listed as new financial opportunity, pursuit of goals. So, beginnings founded in the material realm, building on professional and physical dreams, and aiming for those goals, being practical and tactical, and presumably a struggle with that. Let's see. And there's, on one hand, the left branch, the Knight of Cups. Takes me a while to do these readings. Which is, if you're new to how I do tarot readings, essentially I have to read each card and then I put everything together at the end, because like when it comes to the readings I do, any individual card doesn't really say anything, it's all of the cards together that does. So I have to read each card off. So Knight of Cups, which is to the direct left of the Page of Crystals, is romantic, call to action, and gentle romantic. They want to share their love with the world, help others, see the bright side of things. Means to take the dreams and desires and inspired channel to action, which would be tied to the same dreams as the, so like, it's basically the same thing as the Page of Crystals. Like, they're both mentioning dreams, like different aspects of the same dreams. Like, the dream of financial success, the dream of pursuing your goals, and like, in this case, presumably more romantic. Paired that with 4 of Crystals. Crystals are back in. Which is the 4 of Crystals, which is greed, only focused on the material gain, scarcity, fear loss, and going without is your driving force in pursuing your goals, and that's not a long-term solution. It leads to burnout. Greed is turning you sour. Currently sitting on your riches, afraid to share. Reach into your pocket and share, and you may find it more rewarding than all the money in the world. Okay, so I can do that half of that branch of the tarot, and I don't have a webcam set up for the branches, and I'm afraid to do it, so I can't really show off what I'm doing. But I can already tell you, like, generally when I do these readings, for this deck, it's telling you of 2 different paths, 2 different perspectives for the overall goal. So, like, the goal of pursuing the dreams is basically embrace love and be careful about hyper-focusing on finances. Is while doing that, remember what's important when you're trying to get those, like why you're going for them and what really matters about them. And on the other hand, on the other branch, we've got 8 of Cups, which is inability to release the past and forgive, move on to a higher calling, finding yourself unable to find joy in current situation, No matter how hard you try to spark that once brought you there cannot be reignited. Maybe time to release what's no longer serving you. It's hard to let go of something you once loved. Remind yourself the past is not what defines you. Present is not serving you, so it's time to release and move on to your higher calling. And because this is tied to the Page of Crystals energy, which is again, I need to quickly remind myself. Because this is still tied to the Page of Crystals energy, new beginnings in material realm, and building on success. It's basically don't let your past failings prevent you from pursuing what you want, and don't let current hardships stop you. And then there's this one, 9 of Wands. Let's see, 9 of Wands. Wands are this way. Stay on course, the struggle will pass, and you'll be stronger because of it. Feels like you've lost the battle and the war. And this is still about the present, essentially. You work so hard, you're beaten to the bone by everything life has thrown at you, but you're almost there. The finish line is just over the hill. You have everything it takes to make it, so give yourself one last hard push. You'll be so glad you did. And, like, this reading overall is pretty self-explanatory. So, Page of Crystals. Those Page of Crystals. Again, I'm just going to summarize it a bit. Page of Crystals. New beginnings. Building on professional physical dreams. Knight of Cups. Knight of Cups is the romance, taking dreams, desires, put them into action. For Four of Crystals is fear, loss, and greed. Eight of Cups. Eight of Cups is inability to release the past and forgive, move on to a higher calling. And then there's 9 of Wands. Which is staying course, circle will pass, be stronger, lost the battle in the war. And I'm trying to figure out how to word this because I know what it's saying, I just need to figure out how to word it to summarize. So Opal, basically what this reading is saying is when it comes to again, the whole thing is Page of Crystals, which is Page of Crystals is the new beginnings and building on dreams, like don't lose sight of why you're pursuing those new dreams. Remember what's important, remember the love, but at the same time, do go for those things, but also you will need to change and let go of what isn't working, isn't serving it, and it will be hard, it will be filled with defeat, but don't let go of what matters most, and basically pursue what you most need. And I think that's pretty self-explanatory. I don't think I really need a clarifier, but I'll pull and it's the clarifier card that I'm pulling, just because, even though I think it's pretty self-explanatory, is strength, which is the only major arcana in your whole reading. Strength is next page. So strength is resilience. And when we think of strength, we often think of real strength, but this card represents internal strength, so it's holding on, staying strong. It's resilience and control. So like to control yourself, to control your situation. And so you're not fighting, you're taming, and it's basically the power to control yourself and to face your fears and stand up for yourself and to be heard. So like it's to, and for this it's basically reaffirming that to get to the future you want, you have to fight for the future that you want. You have to put in the work for it, you have to stay strong for it, and you have to remember why you're wanting that future. And that's a reading, Opal. And Archon, thank you. And thank you for redeeming that. It helps me to do this, because like I don't often do readings for others. Like you're genuinely one of the first. Like I have one tarot stream when I first unlocked this as a channel point reward, and then beyond that I've done one or two for a friend, and I've done a few for me and Kels, and I've done some for me, but I don't do tarot very often, as like I don't do tarot as much as I would like to, and I also really don't do it for others, even though I know that I can do it. Like it's very slow. I'm not very fast at it. Ooh, pretty. Exclamation mark. Hook a catch. But at the same time, awesome. I should open up. I should open up audio. Might get stream audio for a moment if it doesn't automatically mute. I want it to automatically mute. It should automatically mute, but if it doesn't, you might hear my stream. Okay, it muted. I just need to go through channel points, clear it, mark it as done.
Wait, are you still live?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I thought you were talking to yourself.
Oh, I'm talking to my chat.
I'm sorry, chat.
First, second.
Sorry.
Fun joke. Daily check-in, boost for stretch, and tarot card. Alright. Caught up on channel points. And Arcana, if you wanted to, now would be the perfect time. So, now would be the perfect.
What?
Oh,
I'm
perfect
okay.
time for redeeming the parent bread you wanted yesterday.
By the way, tomorrow, can you do me a favor before you take me to work?
Take me to work.
Take me to Snurch. I'm thinking about running into Safeway for lunch tomorrow to get my lunch.
As you absolutely should. You have the card.
Well, I figure I should do that before my shift.
Mm-hmm. I should get home early enough.
Well, you get off at 10:30, don't you?
Yep. Also, speaking of which, I need to actually book a food bank appointment for tomorrow too. Let me do that while I'm waiting to see if Arcana.
Oh, can you do that this late?
Well, it's an online appointment.
I'm sure you book it for after you drop me off.
Yeah, it's at 1:30 regardless.
Oh, by the way, we gotta, in like 2 months, we gotta get my dad's birthday gift.
Oh crud, they're completely full tomorrow. But they do have Thursday.
Okay. I mean, either way, we go to the food bank this week.
Mm-hmm. The problem is I only have enough food for tomorrow's shift, so Thursday is going to be a struggle.
Madam? I need you to look at me real quick. We have bread.
Yeah.
And we have peanut butter.
Yeah, but the bread is for you.
Shut up. I say with love. Use some of my bread to make yourself a sandwich or two. Okay? Yes, I am insisting on it.
If need be. I'm checking to see if Arcana is still around.
Arcana! Knock, knock. Are you still there?
Use some of that bread to make 2 sandwiches.
Yeah.
Bread is expensive though.
I'm sharing with you.
I try to only eat the free food from the food bank.
I am going to scream. Do you see this chat? Do you see this? I'm trying to take care of my wife. She's like, no, no.
Yeah, but I'm trying to take care of my wife by making sure you have food. When I eat your food, that means you don't have your
I have a
food.
whole heckin' loaf in the freezer.
I have enough food for tomorrow regardless though, so.
Okay, but Thursday, so. Make yourself a sandwich on Thursday.
Well, I guess I am technically a woman.
It's not. No. Brianna. Do you want cuddles tonight? 'Cause I can take them away.
Give me a sign.
Is this how it works? Why, yes it is. You'll use some of the bread to make 2 sandwiches. You'll do no good for Your wife, if on Thursday if it collapsed at work, yes, make sandwiches. I will, if I need them. Yeah, it's a bit strange on mobile.
You know what? I'm making an executive decision, by the way, for my wife, because she's gonna say that she's going to think about it. She'll, you know, her default answer is gonna be chat, because I know my wife. It's gonna be, I'll be fine. No, I am making my wife sandwiches before we go to bed tomorrow.
That's why you're confused too. Is it a mobile thing where it doesn't show up that well on the phone? Yeah. Okay, we have center card. We'll see if it wants to be a 3 card or the expanded 5 to 6 card. You have to send a message with it. Ah, yeah. And did you think you guys had good wife's decision? And if you're wondering why you have to send a message, it's because often you can sometimes ask for like a more specific reading. There's no guarantee you get a more specific answer because cards... Hi, Sid!
Sid, hi!
Can try a 5 to 6. Well, it's not really up to... it's really up to the cards on whether they want to be 5 or 6, or whether they want to be 5 to 6, or whether they want to be 3. Hi friends, how we doing? Right now I'm redeeming...
Doing a tarot reading for someone.
For Arcana. I don't think you know Arcana.
Do you need me to crawl under the table?
No, I'll get it. Some just kind of fell onto the wheel. And these do not count as part of the reading because I know that they don't. Ah, I see. Yep. You haven't done tarot in a while? Yeah, neither have I. Yeah, this is way too many cards to be part of a reading. This is just a mess being a mess. Okay, I think I got all of the cards. Let me look at things from... Okay, so that card flew out. Where does it go? Ah!
Do you need my help?
Oh, my hair got caught in my mic.
Ow. Oh, well, I need to get a hold of that person to make a hair appointment.
Mm-hmm. Okay, we've got 2 cards. Let's see if it'll be 3 or 5 to 6. You have 3 decks, but the Labyrinth one is the preferred whenever you get the feeling to do one. Yeah, my default is my Dungeons and Dragons deck for me.
Did you pack that away?
No, I have it. Okay, we got a 3-card reading.
Oh, by the way, if anyone has a Spirit Halloween in their area, they might be carrying tarot decks. I found this out while I was getting ready to leave today.
You like the lights on the mic? Oh yeah. I actually added a mic command for... That sounds like a cool one. It's a pretty good deck, honestly. And...
We got it from a local metaphysical shop.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, I need to find their new address.
Okay. I know where it is, loosely. Okay, so... I'm not sure if you were here for Opal's reading Arcana, but basically, to get the full reading, I need to read each of the individual cards and then put it all together and say what it is as a whole. So we start with, I need to pull up to see we start Glare, Warden of Crystals. So let's read that. That's your central card. Crystals. So, Master of the Field. Ooh boy. The Warden of Crystals has worked hard for everything they have. They've become the master of their industry. They are here to acknowledge all your hard work. You've done exactly what you set out to do, and you should relish in that. And this is 10 of Cups. It came out reversed, but this deck doesn't really have reversed. That's usually because this, like when you're doing 3-card spreads, it's usually like something along the lines of past, present, future, or it's something along the lines of an obstacle, solution, and such. So 10 of Cups. It will make sense when it's all put together, essentially. So 10 of Cups, long-lasting happiness, happily ever after, joy in relationships, and on a spiritual level, beyond the physical. So it's true commitment. So this is not the kind of happiness that's fleeting, but the kind that burns inside you for a long time. This is the joy that comes from a relationship that's built on trust and open communication over years, and that's found comfort in each other's quiet company. This isn't lustful love, but deep friendship-based love that lasts a lifetime. And because it was reversed, like this deck doesn't have the reversed, but basically that tracks as being the opposite in the past. So basically, you did not have those things. You had the opposite of those things in the past, where you didn't really have the happiness except fleeting, like you didn't have a level of commitment, but now you're the master. You didn't have commitment, but now you're the master of your craft, essentially. And that leads into the Warden of Daggers. And we do have an ad break, but I don't think you're going to get an ad, so let me know if you get ads. I'm just going to assume you don't otherwise. So, we did Warden of Daggers so I already have a good idea. So, truth, unbiased, clear thoughts. The Warden of Daggers is speaker of truth. Oh, dynamite. I'm gonna exclamation mark quick catch that real quick. So, Warden of Daggers. Here's truth, unbiased, clear thoughts. Speaker of truth. They have worked through the issue and have a clear, unbiased mind. And they call for you to do your research and then speak the truth as well. They call them daggers in this. You like that? Yeah. So, I think this reading is about as clear as a reading can get. So, in your past, in the past, and you are past it, you're past the reverse 10 of Cups energy, which means that you are past, once again, I need to pull it up because I don't quite remember it off the top of my head. So you are past the lack of happiness, you are past the lack of friendships and relationships. You have overcome the challenges of not communicating, In the present, you are already the master of your craft. Like, you know what you're doing. And building on that, in the future, to use your mastery of your craft, you speak the truth. You do your research, and you are basically becoming an advocate for information, for learning, for the truth. And like, I get the very strong sense that this is essentially reassuring you of, hey, you've done good. You're doing good. You've done a lot. Keep going, because you're on the right path to being what you want to be. I'll pull an extra card just to see 8 of crystals. Da, 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 da. Oh yeah, and my clarifier card for this. Come on, clear.
I'm out of here.
I can't find a way to put it without the glare, but that's the 8 of crystals. It's pride in a life well fought for. Hi, Kirion! Welcome on in! I'm sorry, I was actually going to raid you, but then I had chat redeem tarot, and tarot takes me a long time to do. But welcome on in.
Hey, honey.
Oh.
What did you do with the hard copies of our lease?
I moved them to the important documents area.
Remind me where that is.
Our bedroom. By my bed. By my
your side of the bed?
Yeah.
I need to give Cam our new address.
I know our new address. I'm just not going to say it right now.
No, I know you're not.
Okay.
That's why I...
But yeah, like, to finish up, you've chosen the path you want to pursue. You've already and continue to master your skills. You've already and continue work to learn the ins and outs and the skills. And like, you're learning everything there is. And don't give up just because things are tough. It's worth it. And take pride in all that you've learned, because you've done good. And that's the reading. And I know that Kirion technically rated into an ad break, but at the same time, I don't think any of my viewers actually get ads, despite theoretically having the ability to get ads. Thank you very much for the reading. All good. And I'm glad you got like such a reassuring one, because like, you deserve it. And I hope that the readings I gave to you and Opal helped. Yeah, you didn't see any ads? That's good. And I'm sorry that I was in the middle of something when you raided in, Kieran, and also that I wasn't able to talk for more of your stream. I was lurking, but I kinda went to the impromptu stream. Okay. The band that was here has vanished, so... Oh, there was a plastic band that was wrapped around this, and I put it up here, but when I knocked things down, it disappeared. Oh well. I'm putting the cards away. I'm assuming everyone who would want a channel point reading has gotten one. And yeah, that's actually the first time I've used the Rainbow Moon Terror deck for readings.
How do you feel about it?
I feel pretty good. Very good, thank you. Alright. And this is a Stardew Valley stream, but I do try to take the time to actually do any of the channel point redeems that I have redeemed. I don't get the redeems that often, so when I do get them, they're all the more important to me to be done. Like I built my stream to essentially be modeled after the streams of like all the big streamers, the actual professional streamers. So like I have built-in chat games for all of the chatbots I have. I have a bunch of channel point redeems, so I have things set up to where viewers can be engaged. I just don't have the viewer base where most of the time they actually are, and to some extent there's also the lack of knowledge of, wait, you actually have you actually have something for that? Yeah, I have a lot. And like, I don't know if this will pull up just Nightbots or if this will pull up stream elements. Okay, so I have a lot of Nightbot commands, but there's also stream elements and more. Like I have the 8-ball, I've got gambling. Oh yeah. So I've got the 8-ball through 2 different bots, Possibot and stream elements. Like I basically have a bunch of stuff. I just don't advertise it, don't mention it much, and not many people really know about it. I need to figure out a way to make it more visible and more obvious, but also not intrusive. But I digress. My point is, whenever someone actually redeems any of the channel points awards, I want to take the time to actually do them, especially since when it comes to the tarot, that was something that people actually had to spend a lot of channel points to unlock. And a lot of the channel points redeems I have are things that I wanted that I didn't really see most people actually having. Like redeem to make a custom pun or joke, redeem to ramble about something, a passion project, well, passion games, ramblings, to sing my works, to talk about my things, to play certain games that I really don't want to try, the expensive ones. And like, all of that is to say, whenever someone actually does hang around long enough to actually have the channel points and does the redeem for something, I want to prioritize actually doing it. So that is a bit of a long disruption from the gameplay, but at the same time, I felt like I had to. Okay, so there's that. List. 4 p.m. Play a hard again. Rainy day, 7 p.m. Can't do that today. But I can go to the saloon. I'll go talk to Linus. So, when it comes to Sundays and Mondays, those are my talk to everyone, give gifts to everyone days. platforms in here, but I can't get in there yet. Try to keep busy today, go places, talk to people, that sort of thing. Changing is just making a series of different nails choices to consider this me putting in the effort. Thanks for being in my corner, Lavender. I wouldn't even be attempting it if it wasn't for you. Aww, that's so sweet. Mateo, you're great. I feel like you really thought of me. Thank you. Oh, we zoom in? Oh yeah. I can't stand the default speed. It's so painfully slow.
I love you.
I love you. Okay, so let's go into town. Whee. Okay, so there's a couple people outside I can immediately talk to. Is there anything posted? That's calendar. Nothing on the help board. Help. Me. I guess. Supplies for the saloon. Here's got the good stuff. Seeds come to the right place. Is that you admitting that you're seedy, Pierre? Is Abigail up here? I don't see her. Oh, she's in the kitchen.
What? Oh.
Play drums. Yeah, Abigail is better when she is out and about. So I actually agree with Caroline there. But at the same time, gaming isn't a bad hobby to have. Okay, I talked to Alex. Talked to his grandparents. Or George. If I had to guess, Frogs probably remind him of his days in the mines. That does count as a talking interaction, although probably not max hearts, but at the same time. It's Monday, need to write a lot of emails today, not looking forward to it. Yeah, that's me every day. Gumshoes. Exclamation mark, book catch. Playing the Pokemon community game. Okay. Morris, keep up the good work, Lavender. You mean the good work of undermining Jodoko? Jodamar? Yeah, sure, I'll keep up that good work. And oh boo-hoo, Clint. Nobody cares. Was likely to become Crazy Cat Lady. If only they knew. Duck looks very sinister. Emperor looks delighted. I don't particularly like fishing, so you're all good there, but at the same time. Munchington leans into your hand and emits out a rumbling purr. Chonky cat. Susa City, Peach is there. Ooh. I like to call this area the bonus character area because like it's exclusively bonus characters. So. And I could collect more, but I'm not gonna. I already did a full game day. Today is mostly just trying to do the extras. What the? Oh, wrong place. I meant to go over here. From the surface you come, yes, tell me, the people there, do they fear me still? They might. But that's just because they're a superstitious, cowardly lot. A person is smart, people are dumb. Oh, we got a cutscene. Oh, hi, Farmer Lavender. Oh, I'm writing a letter to my friend. His name's Sora. Yes, he lives in Gatora, in a big city. Did Dad ever tell you? He and Mom lived there when I was born. My mom and Sora's mom were real good friends. He and I were kids together. Only I don't remember it. I was too little. Then Mom got sick and Dad said we had to come home. She died. But Dad kept writing to Sora's mom. Her name's Hannah, and after a bit, Sora started writing to me too. So now we're pen friends. You shouldn't be writing to the enemy. Is he doing okay? I don't know. He says it's okay, but sometimes he has to sleep in the basement and he's scared of the dark. I wish he could come here and live with us, but he won't leave his family behind. Anyhow, is it alright if I tell him about you? He says stories about the people in the valley make him smile. Yeah, because it's like away from an imperialistic hell nation. What do you want me to write? Oh, it didn't give me a prompt to actually write anything. Shut the trap. Whee. Go. Da-da-da. Mouse.
Ooh.
Looks like this chair's taken her ladyship, Princess Midnight the Third, eyes you regally. You feel judged and found wanting. And that's a black cat named Ladyship Princess Midnight the Third. Okay, so I think that's all of the extras. If I missed any, oh well. Whee. 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 Da-da-da. Gardening, even for non-farmers. Finest spring flowers. That's good. Looks like I do have my crab pots producing now. It's locked. Huh. I would have thought I could enter Elliot's cabin. Oh well. Boy, that ass look like decent weather for fishing, eh? How about decent weather for giving you a gift? I wonder, does this count? I doubt it does. It does! Hey, there we go. There we go. Fish is a lot closer. Hey, nice to see you. Nice to see you too, Sophia. No favorite things. And I'm sorry if I'm going to be like more low energy. Tarot readings do drain, and it is late. So I did 2 tarot readings, and it's late, so lost a lot of my energy. Start up a new week, our farm work to get done. I don't. I did all of my farming over the weekend. Oops. Shane's not here. Huh. Crops are healthy this season, but make good profit. Well, see the wizard. So this expanded mod is being more explicit about saying he slept with Caroline. Okay, back into town. Sam. Yeah, he's exactly the same. A little PTSD that comes up in cutscenes and then otherwise it's not there ever again. There, da, 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 da. Secret hobby, that being your witchcraft? Yeah, that's secret. Social. Oh yeah, Bea. How could I forget? Hello. Trees look nice, spending time, nature very refreshing. Also, technically, we do have an ad break, but again, at this point, I just assume the ad breaks are fake and don't actually exist, unless otherwise noted. Like, let me know if you get ads, otherwise I'm just going to assume you don't have them.
Tater tots are just some rotary about now.
So I love the debate, not quite enthusiastic. Whee. Here's Spartan, don't really know how to talk to him except Joda. Okay, so there is Sandy. Sane, Sebastian, Marlon. Up to Joda I go. Hard at work. Martin, Sandy, Sebastian. Need something just to give you this and talk to you. Or desert.
I love you.
I love you. Sweet. I'm so glad the bus is back in service. We're starting to get there. Almost went out of business. Gonna buy her a bunch of seeds? I already did. Okay. 4 p.m. 7 p.m. I did that. Since we're locking the time at 4 p.m. and we're warping to my farm, let's put away the spare stuff. I know these aren't technically forgeables, but I'm putting them there for now. Oh, cutscene automatically playing. I see the countryside coming into view. Still a cutscene. One 3 Prairie Road. Oh. Please come in, the door's unlocked. Claire is pretty. Welcome to my home. I know it's a bit small, but it's mine. Yep. Is small, but good. We're having caramelized firefish stew for dinner. Would you mind lending me a hand in the kitchen? The scent from the stew is perfect. That's a sign I'm doing something right. Oh, I haven't cooked in months. I used to just eat frozen JoJo meals, but that's a habit I'm trying to break. Yeah, that's bad. There's something on your face. Here, let me get it for you. We gift. And then we do a lot more. Let's just say lesbians know how to have particularly good times. Looks like we discovered something we both have in common. That was fun. Thank you for coming over. Thank you for having me, Claire. Oh, and I can... Done. Done. Okay, so both of these 7 p.m. So 7 p.m. Hello, Lavender. Care to join me? No, in fact, I hate you. Let me just go ahead and tell you what's on my mind. I have terrible luck with women, Lavender. Yeah, because you're a piece of shit. I'm a nice guy if you get to know me, I swear. Yeah, because you have nice guy syndrome. You're a girl, Lavender. What advice can you give me? Hi, Lavender. As you deserve to be. I think that was the 7 o'clock I wanted. Okay, so this is where we are. I think Jetta is still open, so I'm gonna... Delicious learning experience. Enjoyed your company in more ways than one. Yeah, I don't think Martin's around. And that's everyone. Oh, except Marlon. So warp to the mines. goes adventuring. Find yourself near and start a weapon. Take a look at our weapons cache. Okay, warp the farm. Whee. And I guess I'll look in here. Got the spice berry. Beautiful sunny day. How about we change that? Da, 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 da. Sure. Okay. And it has been a few days since we've covered the farm stuff. So, Sims age, exclamation mark, catch. Dribbling Pokemon Community Day. So, Mountain Day, rainy day, 7 p.m. So I will be redoing this all. Bathhouse After Dark for Penny. Okay, so I'll be doing this quest later. Friendship meals. Friendship meals. And all of this is stuff I'll be redoing. And I'll be harvesting things. The particles are probably going to make it hard, so maybe I'll only do one of those. But yeah. Loud warning in 3, 2, 1. So thank you all for coming out. I don't think there's really anyone to raid. Not that I'm really close with anyway. Like, there are people who are on. Oh, wait. There's someone I can raid. So. Don't copy that. Don't copy the raid message. What you're actually going to be copying is this. Stream elements. But yeah. Making sure I typed it correctly. Okay, correct place. So I am ending. I'm sorry that I'm losing energy fast. Like, this was, for full disclosure, this was meant to be like a short stream, like 6:30 to like 8:30 tops. It's past, if you can look up there at the new place for the time, it's almost 10. I get up in like 4 or 5 hours, so like I should have been in bed. I'm not in bed. I'm so sorry. But thank you all for coming out. And thank you for the channel point redeems and for everything you did. And for all the support you give. I know that you're not actually getting ads, but theoretical ability to potentially get ads and support me that way is there, and it matters. And like I enjoyed tonight. I enjoyed the stream. I had fun, and I hope that you can have a good lurk and a good night. So have a good night. Good night. Good night. Good night.